Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we're here to give you a spoiler-free review of Pixar's The Incredibles 2. Now, this has been a movie 14 years in the making. This is the one Pixar movie that is a pretty straightforward superhero movie. The first thing that we gotta say out of the gate is, I think it's just as fun as the original.
I do too. Go see it in the theaters. I will say, I don't think it captures the same magic and zeitgeist as the first one.
But I think it really encapsulates it because this really does come off as a great second issue to like your favorite comic book you've never read before. And if I were to give this movie any major problems, I think the biggest problem with this Elastigirl, Holly Hunter, is basically the main character of this movie, not even the family. It is Elastigirl.
Absolutely, yeah. Which I appreciate because Bob is really the focal point of the first movie. And since, like you said, executives want it to go. And to me, I think that would answer kind of what you're talking about. So the first movie would be Bob's movie, the second movie would be Helen's movie, and the third movie would be the kids. Yeah. Because my main criticism of this would be that Dash gets no character development in this movie. And
talked about this briefly after the movie. I think they upped his power ability. He seems much more powerful in this movie than he did in movie one.
Episode 1.
Yes.
And so does Violet.
Yes.
Violet, Frozone, and Jack, but with Jack, and it makes her more active, and I actually think it makes her a much more I love Violet, but it makes her even more likable in this movie.
That is one of the strengths of Incredibles 2. Incredibles 2 ways for how these supers use their powers.
Yes.
There is a sequence with Elastigirl and a train that I am not going to spoil, but some of the stuff she does in this sequence literally had the audience with us. We were going like, whoa, wow, holy cow. Another story that we're not going to spoil that really kind of pushes his character forward a lot, but also at the same time, that's almost Bob's main story too.
It is.
At first, you really get the impression that Bob's story is going to be, oh, I'm the stay-at-home dad, but that gets up to in this movie. And there is an amazing scene where Jack fights an animal. I'm not going to tell you what kind of animal it is, but it's one of the best sequences and the funniest sequences of the movie.
I give it less than a year before we're getting stuff
more.
So much more,
Yeah.
And it affects all these other characters in really interesting ways. Without spoiling anything, Edna actually gets involved in Jack's story in a really sweet and interesting way.
Let's talk about Edna here.
Yeah.
Do you think that originally when I heard that Edna Mode was coming back to this movie, actually was, at first when she showed up in the movie, I was like, oh, they're just going to repeat everything. This is not going to work. This joke is not going to work a second time. But it works because they do it differently.
Yeah, I love Edna.
Yeah.
I think she's fabulous. I love that Brad Bird does her.
She's their cue.
Well, but she's basically an exposition dump. You know, she's a plot device, but using her in a different way with a different spin, even though you're seeing a lot of the same tropes. And that's what Incredibles movies are. They're tropes. They're tropes done to the best.
That is the character.
Screenslaver,
excuse me. That is the character that you've seen in some of the trailers with the goggles and the black mask. Very S&M kind of freaky character. Great design. They are the main villain, and basically, why are they doing it? Now, I think that this villain, one of the things that doesn't work for this villain for me is that this villain really actually made his story more important, and we don't get that with Screensplicer.
Screenslaver.
God, what a dumb name. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I think Screenslaver, I think there's good ideas there, but I think, like you brought up a more personal one, I think it's interesting that now we have a version of like a keyboard warrior.
Oh yeah, almost.
Or an anonymous type figure.
This villain is almost a representation or even a metaphor, really kind of almost for social media, really.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting that the Incredible.
I don't know, it might be a spoiler. Let's just say there is a gadget from the first Incredibles movie that plays a very important part in Incredibles 2. I had forgotten about this gadget. Loved it. I did not see that coming, and I should have seen this coming a mile away. Did not see it coming. I was clapping every moment of it. The score, we got to talk about the big underappreciated part of this movie that helps this movie soar is the score by Michael Giacchino. credits in the same
That
style.
kind of like vector pop art
So
thing.
don't go anywhere. Just sit down and watch those amazing credits. Watch all the amazing people floating by. It's really cool. Ashley, let me talk about this. Let's talk about final thoughts here. Is there a character that stands or storyline that stands out to you in
biggest change come for her, and I like seeing her kind of become her own woman. We saw her bring the family together, and now we're seeing her put herself back together. That's what stands out to me. I love the Edna scene, like I mentioned at the top. So those are the two things that stood out the most to me. How about you?
thing? And it's very funny where he's like, just because I'm forceful about, he has a line where he says like, just because I'm forceful about stuff doesn't mean I'm not a good hero.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. I would say overall, yeah, this is just, I think, a really, where we were blown away by the first movie. But man, I'll tell you what, I'm definitely going to go see this in IMAX. I am definitely going to see this again.
Absolutely.
And animation is apparent in the very first frame. You're like, holy cow, Mr. Incredible has never looked this good.
Just look at Elastigirl's hair.
Yep.
Like, the animation, I mean, Pixar always levels up their animation
Yep.
from movie to movie, but now that we've had almost a decade and a half between the two, I'll give it a 4. If I would give Incredibles 1 a 5. I think it's a pretty close to a perfect movie. I'll give Incredibles 2 a 4.5 for being just being a little less surprising. How about you?
I am going to because I was clapping, I was laughing, I was never bored by anything. And again, with the exception of maybe Avengers Infinity War, this is the first movie of the summer, the second movie of the summer where I like walked out and I could have gone right to another screening. We could have walked right into another screening. I would give it a 4.75 out of 5. And I
You're
agree
just
with
getting
you.
ridiculous.
I am getting ridiculous. I'm getting incredible.
Incroyable.
Incredible. I don't know how to say French. So, it's such need the trilogy, and if they do the trilogy, I definitely want to see Mr. Incredible's Joker, Bon Voyage. Remember him from the first one? Yes. I think he is Mr. Incredible's Joker. I want him to be the main villain. He's out there somewhere. You have Bon Voyage. You deal with the villains' kids against the hero. You can find it on some of these videos. That'd be amazing. Incredibles 2 is a great ride. I think it's going to be... It's interesting. This is definitely the summer of superheroes with the Incredibles and Avengers. It's definitely the summer of superheroes. And
in our golden age.
Incredibles 2, go see it.
Geeky content, check out patreon.com/Jawin. Suit up and be a super friend in the Hall of Justice.
Thanks for watching, Super Friends.